right. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Today is July 19th at 1 o'clock Eastern. I'm just so thrilled to introduce to you Christopher Villanueva Blackett. And he is here in today's talk to discuss The Palms of Our Hands, which is upcoming in Galleon Dreaming. So say hi, Christopher.
Hi. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here.
So how this is work is we're going to have a brief introduction, learn more about Chris, and answer some of the questions we've had. Release date is the Founders Edition, January 1st of next year, and then October for the hardcover in North America. You can also get the ebook in litera.ph. That's coming up soon. And so I'll tell you a bit about the author. Christopher Villanueva Blackett is a native New Yorker, born to Filipina and English immigrants. His mother passed away when he was younger and is buried in the Santuario de San Antonio Parish in Makati City. So he spent every summer of his life visiting her columbarium, as well as his lolas, cousins, titos, and falling in love with this motherland. From the pearl markets in the Tiangge to the inihaw served in Salcedo Market and the bars along Burgos Street. So he was raised with a deep appreciation for the escape that books provided. And his childhood bedroom literally doubled as the family library, filled with Isaac Asimov and Terry Pratchett. He studied English literature at Tufts University and studio art at the School of the Museum of Fine Art. And after graduating, he taught in Harlem for several years through Teach for America. So he's now a corporate cog and aspiring author. And in his spare time, he writes poetry and prose, paints and wheel throws, and reads as many books as he can get his hands on. And he lives in New York with his wife, Michelle, and his dog, Phoebe. So you are going to be able to connect with Christopher on Instagram at CV Blackett. That's BLACKETT. And then same with the website, cvblackett.wordpress.com. All right, so welcome, Chris.
Hi, Nikki. Oh my gosh, thank you for the wonderful introduction.
So yeah, I just wanted to just check with you, like, what would a great day in New York City be if one of our readers, or if I was going to come through any breakfast, activity, lunch, museum, like sporting events?
Oh my gosh. I have so many recommendations. I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I think food-wise, because we are representing the Philippines, I have to give a plug for Jackson Heights and the Filipino food there. Also, the food court in New World Mall in Flushing is incredible. You can find a lot of different types of really authentic Asian food, like Uyghur food, but also Nepalese and Chinese food. And then culturally, I mean, the Metropolitan Museum of Art is my favorite museum in the world. And then Central Park has the Northwoods and Conservatory Gardens, which is a series of 3 gardens. There's French, Italian, and English style, and they're beautiful. Not many people know about them, even though it's in Central Park. I proposed to my wife there a few years ago, but it's stunning. I would highly recommend that part of Central Park in Manhattan.
That's just so wonderful. You know, in New York City, my sisters and I were talking to each other. We're like, New York, LA. She's like, New York or Honolulu, New York. New York or
It's
DC,
New York or nowhere. Yeah, I mean, the hard part is, growing up in New York, I didn't learn how to drive until I was 23. And so now I can drive. I'm not a good driver. And so for me, it's really only New York or a city with public transportation.
That's
so maybe San Francisco in the part, maybe, probably not.
Yeah, and also New York is the heart of publishing. So yeah, let's get a little bit into your work. You know, this is really what it's all about. And so I wanted to ask you, have there been any moments on this path to publication that really surprised you or made you stop and think? And you and I have talked a little bit about, you know, publishing in general and being pioneers in publishing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So for the past few years, I've been writing a manuscript called Tumakas. And it's like a folk horror novel set in Manila during Duterte's war on drugs. And finally, as of Thursday, what was that, like July 16th or something, I had an agent, my first literary agent, offer me representation from HG Literary. He's actually half Pinoy, which I think is amazing. I have a few other agents right now who are coming out of the woodwork. I have been querying for a year now, Nikki. This is like you have to be very deluded to want to be a writer, I think.
I totally talked about that with someone. We're so deluded.
Yeah. To think that you're good at writing, to think you have a story worth telling, it's a good type of deluded, though. But it has finally sort of paid off, and that experience was challenging. When you're querying agents, you hear a lot of no's. You often hear nothing at all. When I first started querying this manuscript, it was 70% of the way there, and I was really fortunate enough to have had two agents, Jane Chun at Transatlantic and John Cobb at HG Literary, reject me, but they gave me like a full email with feedback on what to do and suggestions. And they were like, you have something really promising. Once you make these updates, if you make these updates, like reach back out. And so that was really validating, even though it was a no, but, and I think even just that like helps you continue through the delusion, right? Like it reaffirms some of the delusion that maybe I'm an okay writer. And so that is where I am now. I think, I've learned so much through this process. There are so many good resources and communities. I think Reddit has been a surprisingly wonderful community. Like,
pub tips.
Yeah, pub tips. They teach you how to write a query letter. And my favorite subreddits are pub tips and then bald. And
bald.
Yeah, because it's like the safest, most reaffirming space for like men I've ever seen. It's like shows you how to have healthy like masculinity in a way which like you don't really see in society. But anyways, that is like
no, I love all of that. And like, first of all, let's just give a huge
round. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
I know when you texted me, I was like, why is he not wanting to talk about this? And you were saying, oh, well, like I'm not really published author. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Your writing is 2.5 years ahead of what we see traditional publishing doing. So if you see the representation now, you could expect to see the book on shelves in around 2.5 years. So we are right on target. You were right on target. You know what I mean?
2.5 years. I'm like, Nikki, can it be a 1 year? I'm
tired. Sorry.
I'm tired of doing this.
We're talking in 2026, and yeah, we don't expect stuff on shelves until.
Yeah. The delusion has to continue for a few more years. Oh no. Keep
writing, Chris. Come on.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think one thing to also note is along the step of the way, it's nice to be connected with other people who are going through the same exact thing as you are going through, and also the validation. So I know for me, I had validation when I was kind of recognized with stuff as well. And so I think it's just about, you have a gift, you have a story to tell the story, write the story. Yeah. That's your job. That's the writer's job.
Yeah. I love that approach. And truly, you won't get better unless you are actually writing or even trying to put yourself out there, which is why I love Galleon Dreaming and Dylan Press, because it's an opportunity for people to put themselves out there, right? Like, if you are just writing in isolation without letting people or, the sanitizing light of day see your work, then it won't get better. And I think that's really important.
Yes, and my goal is to have almost a compendium of writers. If we had, say, 10 of these, we could have 250 people out in the world that may not have had a platform before. And if anything, we can have full shelves. I talk about this with all the authors. We can have full shelves of dark fiction, and Tamakos will be right up there with all the others. So it's so exciting. So yeah, and again, in hopes that this encourages other authors or creatives, we just talked with Incendiary, Celine about a collage for us, and we're going to be sharing that. So in terms of creative works, would you be able to share a bit about how you find inspiration or how you come up with ideas?
Yeah, I think the first place where I find inspiration is actually by reading other authors. And so, Patricia Evangelista and her Some People Need Killing, I think, was a really big inspiration as I was writing this story. I started writing this before her book came out, but it was I mean, reading her prose is phenomenal. Anytime I'm reading a really good book, it makes me want to write. Right now I'm reading The Overstory, which won the Pulitzer Prize in 2018. I just finished Pachinko by Min Jin Lee, who also lives in Harlem, and Taiwan Travelogue. And all three of those books, while I was reading them, I would like pull my computer out because I'd be like, this sentence was so perfect. I want to go and try and write a sentence that comes even a little bit close to what they've achieved. So I think reading other people's stories in prose is really helpful. It helps you identify and understand what works and what doesn't. I find a lot of inspiration too in my family's lives. My Lola was an artist. She was a pianist, and a lot of what I'm writing now is particularly about memory and like the passage of time, and the palms of her hands is particularly about memory and the passage of time. And so I think just reflecting on the memories she gave me, how sort of time oxidizes experience has been really interesting. And then just generally even inspiration in my own life. I think it is a very good adage that you should start by writing what you know. And that can come in a variety of things, right? If you read a lot of fantasy, you know fantasy, and so you can start by writing fantasy. But if you are really familiar with a neighborhood, like my sister lived in Poblacion in Burgos, and so a lot of Tumacas takes place in Burgos because I spent a lot of time in that area of Manila, and so I do find a lot of inspiration there, and then that sort of unlocks other aspects of writing for me, at least.
Yeah, that's awesome. A couple things that come up from that. So I play piano as well, and music is definitely, there can only be one pianist. I was at a wedding. There was like 450 people in the church, and like me and my sister, she plays viola. She's a noted violist, and it's like there can be only one. But also for the idea that literature persists and can be like, he wrote that story long ago, but during COVID, I read Overstory, and then people wanted it, like, because libraries were closed and books were. So people were sharing literature, and it's that idea that the words on the page can help somebody feel less alone, honestly.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. I've also been reflecting. This is sort of going back to our idea of delusion in this industry, but if you want to be a writer, you're sort of not just competing against writers who are alive, but you are also competing against past works. And the author of Overstory is still alive, but you're competing against the whole compendium of works so that's neither here nor there. But you're also competing for book space against Overstory, which is a phenomenal piece of writing. So.
But also, to say again, too, the idea that the diaspora, because, when I first started this, I had understood it to be global Filipinos, but in the Philippines had said that felt exclusionary. So I had to be very careful and intentional to say that this is open to all of us. But, potentially your grandmother's experience is perpetuating through you, leaving Manila, crossing the oceans and being absorbed and then shared again from New York City, right? And then all of us who are from the diaspora, immigrants, sometimes multiple generations removed, the Filipino stories still continue. So we're the caretaker of that story. So just continue to share. Continue to share. Your ancestors, want you to get this story out.
Yeah. No, that's, I think, really beautiful, especially uniquely the Filipino has traveled in so much of a percentage of the population. I think the highest percentage of any nationality living abroad are Filipinos. And so much of our stories get dispersed to the wind and then transferred over generations. I have so many Filipino friends who have never, they're now second generation Filipinos who have never stepped foot in the Philippines, but are Filipinos. And that's something I've actually, as a half Filipino, have sort of struggled with a lot personally. It's like, am I Filipino enough to tell these stories? But
Yes, and I'm here to tell you, we claim you, Chris.
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, I have a passport. I have a Filipino passport.
Wow.
I may only know a little bit of Tagalog, but technically.
Awesome. Well, yeah, so when we're talking about different themes and tropes that come through this work, I know there's this move towards always putting the dark academia and the hero's journey into the book. But what would you say are kind of the ideas that you're continually recurring in your work, or what do you always go back to, wanting to explore?
Yeah, strangely enough. So I mentioned memory. I think memory is a big one, especially post-pandemic. I think there was, for me personally, my Lola passed away from COVID, but also, I used to go to the Philippines every summer up until the pandemic, and then it's become much more sporadic. For me, I think there was like life before the pandemic and life after the pandemic in some ways. And I look sort of pre-pandemic at rose-tinted glasses. And so I think a lot of my writing subconsciously or consciously is about memory and the elusiveness of, experiences, especially as more time passes, trying to recall people's voices or the smell of a place, or, trying to relive a specific memory that you have becomes much more difficult as time passes. And so a lot of my writing tries to deal with that. Palms of Her Hands is about a woman returning to her lolo's, hacienda or estate after decades have passed and the place has sort of fallen into ruin, and trying to come to terms with what that place now means for her. And then the other theme is sort of regret. And that, I think, also is tied up in memory. I think, as we get older, we accumulate more regret, probably because just more time has passed. You're holding your chest like that, Rez.
I know, no, I'm right there with you. My parents are older. They moved back from North America back to the Philippines. The hacienda has been decrepit, the original house, and it's what remains. I think memory, what remains. What is the heritage? What do you persist with after the physical object, the physical person has gone? What persists?
Yeah, and it's interesting too within the context of our own lives. Your family has this sort of hacienda or estate back home, but what will this place mean for you or future generations? I mean, that's something I struggle with, is what are my kids, what are their connections going to be with the Philippines and, the places that I loved. What's nice is the columbarium, where a lot of my family is buried, will persist, but a lot of the places, like my Lola's home, was sold and totally understand no one's living there anymore. But now these places that you had a lot of affinity and memory in are sort of gone or evaporating.
So maybe we fix it in literature, it in time and space through the printed page.
Yeah, that's I hadn't even really thought about it, but it's true. Like, writing becomes a way to immortalize a moment or a place or a feeling in a way that not many other, all art can do it, but I think writing does it exceptionally well because you can enter perspectives and points of view in a way that are harder in other mediums.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And then I think sorry.
No, and just being able to share that across time, maybe your children will be able to have a connection to the past, even if maybe they live on the moon base. Who knows?
Right? Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I don't know if my kids are gonna make it in that rock. But kind of relatedly, I think a lot about justice and fairness too. And I think in Tumakas, the manuscript that I've sort of written, it's a big theme. In other sort of short stories I've written, it's a big theme. I think growing older is also an acknowledgement that these ideas are harder to achieve. I remember growing up and being like, how could they let that happen? And now you sort of understand that it's hard to stop, like Donald Trump in the U.S. and Duterte, and now you have Bongbong Marcos in the Philippines, and writing for me becomes kind of a cathartic way to sort of achieve justice in a world that sometimes seems impervious to it. Like with Donald Trump, he probably will never, I don't know if your listeners will support Donald Trump. I don't, and that is my personal politics.
I will say, I was learning about the printing press. So the Katipunan Compañeros, they had a printing press, and that's how they grew their community through the zines, basically.
Yeah.
So the written word can spread far, far beyond and can be an instrument of justice, retribution, balance.
Yeah.
Setting the scales right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, golly, it goes like a flash. So I just have one last question, if you can believe that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to hear a little bit more about your next idea, or can you give us an idea about what you're working on next? Is there anything beyond Tumakas, or is that going to be the one that you're going to be focusing on in the next, say, year or two?
Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like for the past 2 years, all I've been doing is sort of living, eating, and breathing Tumakas, and so the fact that it is now with an agent means that I get to finally write other things, which is nice.
Yes, that is nice.
I'm sure I will have to jump back into it in a bit and start editing it more, etc. But I'm writing another manuscript. I'm 20,000 words into it, but it is sort of a fantastical gothic horror novel. Actually, so I took inspiration from my Lola, who was a pianist, and it's about, this aspiring piano student who finds this sort of mythological siren-esque woman, and he sort of imprisons her in a way to transcribe some of her music. And so it's just
okay. No spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers. Done. But it takes place in sort of a fantastical setting, and I'm excited, to sort of do something very different. But
harnessing the muse.
Yeah.
Style,
basically.
Style.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for spending some of your afternoon with me, Chris. Again, you can find Chris at his website, chrisvillanuevablackett.wordpress.com. Oh no, let me see. Was it that?
I tried to make it complicated.
cvblackett.wordpress.com. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a pleasure. I can't wait to have the book out and have you read it and connect with other people writing in the field.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nikki. I really appreciate everything you've done for Delim and all of us aspiring writers. So
awesome.
Take care.